So this is the work session for the Planning Commission. We have Alan Burke present, Matt Clapp, Thomas Doherty, Steve Mitten. We don't have any announcements. Before oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to
Nancy,
say
sorry.
publicly, no, I'm sorry, I should put it on here. I just want to say we are testing out the recording situation here. So this meeting is being recorded, not live streamed, but it will go on the Planning Commission YouTube page. But tonight we're testing WebEx, last was Teams. So Bill Mann is going to end up sharing the screen so that you guys can just show whatever you want.
Just move along on this end?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So we're still in the testing phase though, right?
We are.
Okay, very good. So that's our announcement. That's great. Are there any citizen comments on items not on the agenda for tonight? No, okay. This is just a work session, so that makes sense. There's no reports to discuss tonight, so we're just gonna jump right into old business. Does anybody have any comments on the meeting minutes from April that I distributed?
No, I looked in for you. There.
Right, yeah, I'm looking to you. Yeah, very good, very good. Steve, did you have anything? Okay, all right, so we'll vote on those. We'll move to approve those next week. The second item on the agenda under old business is the county's comments. They had two comments on our proposed ordinance for the for historical architect review of new developments in the HO overlay districts. So let's go to the letter here. So there are two comments they provided. One was, are we addressing buildings, all new proposed buildings or structures in the overlay districts, or only those that exceed the existing height max between 45 and 60 in the HO 60 district and between 35 and 75 in the HO 75 district? I guess we didn't specify that in the proposed, but well, that was the comment. I did not have a chance to go back and look. Did anybody have a chance to go back and look?
Well, if I may,
Yes,
there's an existing provision in the ordinance which requires buildings in the HO 60 and 75 to be reviewed for architectural compliance.
If
Right.
they use the HO6.
Correct.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah.
It's only
So-
HO 60 and HO 75
Yep.
buildings.
So we're covered under that existing.
Correct.
All right, so we can address that comment. The second one, it seems to be, they want to make sure there's consistency in review. It basically speaks to the fact that the Borough Historic Architect interface with harbor views that are relevant. They want to avoid conflicts between what the HARB considers historically architecturally compatible and what the Borough Historic Architect determines to be appropriate. I think we were thinking the architect would be on the HARB or is currently. I don't know if we care if there's a conflict there.
Isn't that just more information for Borough Council to make a judgment based on? I mean, they're both.
The intention was to separate it from HARB
Right.
because of the issue about HARB's authority to do this kind of review, which they didn't know that background, but
Right.
that's the intention.
Okay.
So, but they will be applying the same standards.
Right.
And even if they were, let's say it was somebody who's on Harvard and they're applying two different things, they're both just recommending something to Borough Council. So Borough Council could look at both opinions, correct?
Correct. And there is some thought that this architect would be someone who's on the HARB.
Yes.
That would be the
But that's
best.
council's decision.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, so I think we have responses, valid arguments for those two. Okay, great. So that takes care of that item. The next item on the agenda is review and discussion of the build to ordinance draft. Ramsey, I don't know if you discussed, I didn't discuss this with Jim, this agenda item, so I'm not sure what, if there's just, if we don't have a new draft.
Ongoing thing.
the
I'm supposed to
yeah.
be working with Jim on it, so.
Okay, all right, because I know you were going to look at the old version of the code, so do you
So I
have
think
any
it's
updates on that?
No updates for this evening.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, I'm just kind of leaving them on so they don't disappear and
That's
then you
fine.
guys can table.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Okay.
Very good. All right, then we'll get down to the new business.
It's been on there for 6 months, so.
Yeah, there's what's the rush, right? All right, so we'll move on to new business then. Do we have someone here for 401 West Washington Street? Okay, great. Yeah, if you want to, I don't, well, we might have something up here. I didn't set this up, so let's see here. So we can call it up. No, go for it. I don't know why, you can't see that. Let's see here. Yeah, if you want to speak to that, or if you want to use your drawings, and you can, careful touching the screen unless you want to do something on it.
Yeah.
We'll,
I can go all the
Yep.
way to the west to make sure it's, you know, so this would not be red.
oh, we might have the, oh, we have it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We have Rev 1, here it is.
Yeah.
I opened the wrong one.
But there's minors.
Yeah.
So basically, what we have here, we have the Elks Home and Elks Terrace, which is a apartment complex. Right now, currently, the property line comes up and it turns and goes around this area right here. Basically, the parking lot for Elks Terrace has been on the Elks Home property all this time. So basically, it's a liability issue, insurance, things of that nature. So the whole purpose of the plan is just to clean that up. The idea was to just take this land and get it to the Elks Terrace. The idea was to just take that existing line, go straight up, but that didn't work mainly because I had to add 1 foot, a skinny strip, because otherwise we have too much impervious on lot 2 of the Elks Terrace. So basically, I took a very skinny strip to ensure that the impervious count is now equal to before it entered, thus not having to go to zoning for anything of that nature. So nothing's proposed to be built. It's just a matter of cleaning up what was kind of existing non-conforming at the time and to take the liability off the Elks Home for anything that would potentially happen in that parking lot, and they don't have access to it.
And so our zoning officer has not, has he reviewed these
Yeah,
revised
I
plans
didn't
yet?
see his notes.
Because we didn't see a new letter. We only have the original letter that said you were increasing the impervious on lot 2, so.
Yeah.
It sounds like
it
you've made-
wasn't that he was confused at first, he didn't understand because it's so hard
Yeah.
to see that 1 foot.
Right.
But I pointed to him down below, if you kind of scroll down, there's 2 distances down there. Yeah, right here, you have a 19208, which is existing, 19308 will be your proposed. Same thing over here, foot difference,
Okay,
and that's what he was, once I explained that, it's,
okay.
yeah, at least not yet.
Alan, do you have any questions?
Well, it's an existing non-compliance being adjusted to a different non-compliance, and I'm not sure that's something that we can do.
What's the non-compliance?
The
The impervious coverage.
impervious coverage.
Well, we're not increasing the impervious.
I understand that. You've been very clear about that. Non-compliance is non-compliance.
Whether you need zoning confirmation on that. is what you're asking.
I think the zoning officer should definitely speak to it because it strikes me that that's a problem. It's problem number one. And then I think problem number 2 is, I think we're all aware that this property is called out on the official map as being one in which the borough's interest in a right-of-way through here is clearly delineated, and I'm not sure whether or not this activity would require interface from the borough speaking up to that, because it's sort of when you're on the official map, you get a chance to speak up on whether you're going to act on that or not. And so I don't know if that has, Ramsey, do you know, has that taken place? Is that conversation?
I am not aware of that conversation.
Okay, so I think those are the 2 things that just jumped out at me.
You know where they're looking for, putting that right away?
It's on the official map. The official map is available on the borough website.
Call that.
That's it. Those are the two things.
Okay. Thomas?
I was just, I hadn't realized it had been resolved like this. I guess I hadn't looked at that carefully enough. I had read Xerxes' letter that it was non-conforming. It makes sense, obviously, what you're doing, but I think Alan's points are important and those would both probably be addressed. I guess one would be internal, maybe as to like the official map, and the other one would be waiting for another letter from the
Hmm.
Xerxes, right?
Yeah, well, certainly a call from the borough planner would be, you know, just
Did you have any, and I guess I would
Bring it
lean on you, wondering if you had any thoughts or comments on that.
Seen it, so
Okay.
probably wait to see what the zoning officer said. I was not aware about the official map.
But that's it.
Can I just clarify? So Mike from Yerkes gave a zoning review and then you revised the plan and sent that to him or clarified with him? And then did you say you had a conversation with him?
One provision that we did, and the second one was he had any questions, which I just basically sent an email resolving it, so
Okay,
the second one didn't need to.
okay. I just looked in the file to see if there was anything else from Yerkes. I don't see any additional
Right.
reviews, so.
But maybe we can get that before the voting session next week.
Yeah.
Right there. It's inside the,
And the orange represents potential.
yes, I believe it does.
Yeah,
Proposed,
close right away.
yeah. And it looks like, based on this, it's inside, but you're right.
but that's
Inside
definitely
lot
something to
one.
look at carefully. Yeah, that's a great point.
When they do the proposed right of ways, did they go to the property owner first or not yet? I wouldn't even know what to do.
Well, you know, not that great an authority on this, but the official map is essentially laying out with the borough plans, the things that the areas that it wishes to perhaps act on in the future.
They have,
And I think it requires interaction between, and it's usually triggered when there's some sale of the property or a lot line move or something like this. And it's just an unfortunate example here because what you seem to be doing is fairly innocuous move, but it's triggered a couple of things here, which I think we have to be.
I do notice where that line is, goes right for the Elks Home buildings.
Well, this isn't exactly a CAD drawing either, so, but yeah,
Main Street.
yeah, extended.
See on my plan, had you done that, did the building rating play? Well, I get all for it. So you have the intersection here, so you would have to either remove it or
Yeah.
realign it sometime.
Well, I'm going to defer to Mr. Esty, but Article 4 of the municipality's planning code with an official map alerts the property owner to the intent of the municipality to acquire land. How did Article 4 happen? In the 1930s, people were doing reservoirs, sewage treatment plants, floodplain control. So when the MPC was adopted in 1968, they figured, let's take all that old legislation from the 30s and put it in a home. If the Elks Club was going to subdivide the property, and I'm just making it up, have a driveway or other buildings there, the borough is announcing the intent to have the right of way and pretty much ask for the right to acquire that land. And within a period of time, it's usually about a year, and the Elks Club could say something and communicate with the borough, and marriage made in heaven, and they convey the land, and it changes the subdivision. But I don't think, subject to the zoning officer's review, that the alignment of the line to rectify the problem, what is your name? That Philip just mentioned,
Yeah.
would create a problem because the official map is a wish that someday the road might be there and alerting the property owner that the borough wants first dibs, if I can use a non-technical term.
The official map's a planning document, so
Yeah.
it does exactly that. It notifies the landowner that the borough has an interest in putting the road through. And I think Tom's also right. If this was a vacant lot and they were building a building, it would tell the owner, we don't want you to put the building there because we're intending or possibly going to put a road through. But I don't think this lot line change implicates the official map. But that's not really my call to make. But that's my opinion.
We
Because
both,
once the borough declines to exercise its desire here, it's over with. They lose that right? So it's a fairly important thing that just, the officials in charge should chime in on this and,
Correct.
yeah.
They have the opportunity, so right now, obviously, they're keeping Ellis Home that way. You're now, Ellis Home wants to tear down, subdivide. Would it then be brought up again?
Yeah,
Or is it going from record because they've already denied it?
it would not go away.
Okay, so.
In other words, you're not intending to do anything with this plan that would be contrary to the planning idea of putting the road through.
Yeah.
But you may in the future, and then it would trigger the official map.
They don't want to put 5 homes there, you know.
Right, they
Then
want
they have to put that road, the borough, be like, okay, we want a road through here, help, solve that.
And as Tom said, you might do that by agreement, or the borough might have to condemn it. if they run it that road.
Okay. No, nothing else?
Yeah, but I think certainly we want to keep that option locked for the borough. Hopefully this building negate that, but as I said, certainly the zoning should look for, see. What are compliance for the inquiries.
I reached out to the zoning officer for clarification before the next meeting. And then we also have an executive session so I can discuss with council. What's the best way? Does council need to issue an official letter or something regarding an official map response? Or does it need to be in writing? Or something like that?
We'll have to take a look at it. I don't think so, because I don't think this implicates the map,
Okay,
but I would have to review it with Tom.
okay.
All right, thanks, Ramsey. All right, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up is 210, 214 West Washington, Access Square.
So this will come up again.
This will, yes, we'll go over it again at the voting session next week,
Next Tuesday, right?
next Tuesday, yes, sorry.
Tuesday at 6:30.
Yes,
I'm with it now.
okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh,
So I'm Scott Swansky, as a tour, back with the Access Square project, final plans. We received 3 review letters from Jeremy, RD, and Chiquita, and we will comply on all comments. I was going to bring up 2 comments to discuss here tonight. 3. Wanted to ask you, one of the committee comments was about our we proposed planter boxes on Washington Street in between the stairway as plantings. We did not propose specific heights in there. So I don't know if that is something you would like to suggest, or Megan in our office should just think would fit best. So
Megan is very good.
she already said, she's like, oh, you do evergreens so it's green in the winter, and flowers so it's flowering in the summer.
Megan used to be with Andrew Kogan. She knows the annuals 10 times better than I.
Okay, so we'll propose it and get it in the maintenance schedule thing. So we will reply to that comment then, specifying the planters that will be. I believe we have one is we need to.
can go down.
Basically one for each house.
yeah. On the scroll.
Um,
Landscaping plan, just so folks can see it.
for
And the others, Jim Cherry, who couldn't join us today, asked me to bring up one point about the curvature of the alley where Patton and Birdseye meet.
Okay, right here.
So that curvature, Jim brought that up before, he wanted more green, we were looking more green as well, that is there for fire truck. That's why it's that big.
Yeah, and I hope, so I'm not gonna jump in now, but I think we all want to talk a little bit more about that. And we had talked about that, months ago when you were in front of us, and I saw the letter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's, it's a back and forth that this entire, any municipality in the country has this, right? We are a little bit unique, and I do think that when we have standards that are going to make maybe 80% of our town non-conforming, maybe we need to look at those standards a little bit more carefully.
yeah, I'm all for.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Fires, fire code, I think it's died. It's like 25 minutes.
What's funny about that is that, in 2 months, we're gonna get the 2021, or I'm assuming that we're gonna update that too, so.
They have those all. You can read all of them.
Yeah, right. I just mean it's a constantly changing thing, right? Like, so we're looking at the 2018 standards, but we're going to get 2021. So I shouldn't get too caught up on that,
So, yeah, I hear you. But yeah, this is great, it's talking about.
Yep.
And once you sheet 14, I believe, you'll see why.
Which sheet are we in? Let's see, 10, okay.
The last.
Yep.
So it's for arrow turning that way and this one's straight out. It's a bird. It's a bird. So we discuss this more later.
I think it'll come up in the comments.
All right.
But did you have another comment you wanted to
Yeah,
address?
so I have been renting, first I'll talk about streetlights. The preliminary plans, commented we weren't proposing streetlights and it should be discussed with planning commission. We have still not proposed any streetlights currently. We are proposing basically wall mounted door lights at each doorway. And the owner is here and he said he intends for them to be on timer for dusk to dawn, so they're on all night. Yeah, sconce. At each doorway. So we're proposing them, in addition to that, there's 4 existing streetlights. There's one on the pole that's here. There's a pole on the other side of the street, which unfortunately is not on this plan, but it is opposite of this planter box. It's, over lights over in Washington. And back here, we have one. This plan's cut off, but there's a pole mounted over light over this intersection with Birdseye and Patton. And there's another one that's basically about 5 feet beyond where the property line is, another over light out there. So I'm not sure what we're supposed to do proposing these streetlights on there's already pulled. And that combined with our building sconce lights at each doorway proposed to be on or dusk to dawn. Wanted to see if you guys had any comments or suggestions on that, just to feel like this part of town does not have the decorative gathering ones that are in the center of town. So I didn't see any when I was cruising around the street, we went 2 blocks around this property. But the comment keeps coming up for us to discuss it with you guys. Here to discuss it.
Yeah, it is a requirement in the code. My question was, I agree, because I took a look around and the existing Cobra lights are all well spaced and would probably cover most of the frontage. I guess my question is, did you consider, I think we discussed this as well, any lights in the courtyard in the back? Because those sconces presumably aren't that bright. I can see that getting a little dark and maybe that's fine, but did you consider it? And why did you rule it out if you did?
We haven't really discussed doing that at all. I'm not sure if that's something you would.
I know we're talking for the same thing, and then we're just around the picture each forward.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so we would, yeah, at each doorway, which is next to each garage.
Mhm.
When you're talking about something.
Yeah, I was picturing something in the median, whether it's near bird's eye or in between the trees or whatever. I'm not saying it's necessary. I was just curious what your thoughts were on that. Because personally, I agree. Normally, the streetlight is a requirement, and looking up and down, most of the houses, if they have lights on the outside by the door, they're outward facing. They're not sconces that point down. So that would be the only thing. These won't be necessarily consistent with the existing, but they are all over the place in terms of some houses have them, some don't. They're different styles. So I don't think there's any one specific style that you would even go by. And the Cobra lights do provide coverage almost at every corner of the building, and it's a fairly small block. So I think you're covered, but that's just my opinion. Alan, or does anybody else have thoughts on that?
I do. Are we going to go down the line?
Yeah, we can do that. Alan, do you?
I think in the past, we've always sort of, regardless of what's on the building, held the requirements for streetlight. Other than that, I don't really have any other comments.
Okay. Thomas?
Again, I just want to commend you guys for, I think this is the kind of project that we've been talking about needing, especially as a juxtaposition to, some of the other projects that are coming in front of us. This does seem to align well with the goals of the comp plan. I did want to just touch on the lighting and then the turning radius. I guess first with the lighting, Tom, with the goal with the Saldo requiring the more decorative lights in this situation, would there be coordination with the borough to then eliminate the existing Cobra lighting? To some extent, we're never going to be able to improve the public lighting, right? Unless a developer puts those in. But is there a coordination that would be appropriate with the borough to then remove existing Cobras?
Yeah, it's a great question. We hadn't really thought about phasing out or decommissioning. And I think in large part, when the Saldo amendments were done, we weren't thinking precisely of these small infill projects. Sort of something larger, like the apartments that we looked at in the past. So I guess the question would be, should the planning commission make a recommendation on this? And then ask council their preference for whether the existing cover lights are adequate or the new street lights. So I apologize to that on minutes, but did you ask for a waiver on street lights?
I honestly didn't cross my mind that there's streetlight.
Because I think the Saldo requires them, and I think you would have to get a waiver from council not to put them in.
It is a Saldo requirement.
Yeah.
It's not some.
Right.
Yeah, they'd have to get a waiver.
Yeah,
And it's specific as like a post light. Is that what it is?
It's the A4. I think it's an A4 or maybe something else that's approved, but it's recommended with the downtown. A4.
They have to get a waiver. So, I mean, I think that the council would look to you for a recommendation.
I mean, in some ways, it's burdening potential future owners, right? Like that cost is just going to raise the cost of homes that we're trying to open up doors to developing new single-family homes like this. So I get the conflict there, but it does seem to be a borough count. Anyway, we slice it, it's a borough council decision, as to your point. So, okay, well then the turning radius thing. I mean, also obviously, or I would say obviously, a borough council thing as well. It was a point that we brought up, 3 or 4 months ago. Should there be an imposition on a development like this to create a turning radius, which is, out of character with the rest of the borough and would create most of, you know, that downtown. Let's say 50% of our borough is going to be, our borough intersections are going to be non-conforming given this standard. Our chair is not here tonight, but I know he wrote a note. I don't know if you want to read that.
Sure. I don't know if he wants me to quote it.
Okay.
Because, well, he called it a ridiculously scaled radius. He has the same general comment and position that this is ultimately not safe for pedestrians. Basically, on the corner, that house would walk down the stairs and be on the curb. And folks walking down the street, down Patton Alley, can't turn in the bird's eye without being on the curb. And so just from a pedestrian safety issue, that's an issue. And then as Thomas said, this would actually create nonconformities all over the borough. So our chair basically echoes the comment.
It's an interesting thing that more and more, right, you know, most of our zoning dates back, interestingly, to the 70s, right? And so you see that kind of grandfathered in on and on. And so many of the codes that are written, and then we're going to adopt the new 2021 ones, right? They're not designed with Westchester in mind or borough in mind, the pedestrian scale in mind. And so then, you know, go to Dallas. You know, that's a reflection of, or, you know, whatever new, like Arizona, like Tempe, that's a reflection of the modern 2021 expectations for safety. You know, there's a whole debate and lots of studies around, for example, to Chair's point, pedestrian safety. You know, are we actually making things safer by making things wider? You know, it's funny, in the traffic engineers guidebooks, they'll call things like, you know, like a tree, like, you know, adjacent to a road, like, oh, we need to be careful about putting that there in case somebody runs into it. It's like, well, what if there was somebody on the sidewalk on the other side of that tree, right? So it's a conflict, and I would hope, I saw the letter that you guys were responding to, and there was a lot of musts and shalls, like there can't be parking here. You must do this with a turning radius. And I hope that the decision that gets made is not simply based on that one letter, that there's a dialogue where we discuss what is best in this situation. You know, if we were to do this throughout the borough, we'd be knocking down a bunch of buildings, which is what happened back, you know, in the 70s and 80s for safety. So I strongly agree with our chair that needs to be addressed, and we do need to push that curve back somewhat.
So is that in the radius section, is that flush or raised curve?
No, I'm doing the same, house and border. We don't even have a curve
Okay,
there. We just did the radius to satisfy the environment.
because a lot of municipalities have the same issue with the fire marshal. They'll have a flush curb and then a unit paver in the section that you wish had been skinnier, or a 5-foot radius instead of a 25-foot radius, so that it looks more elegant.
Like, you know, like grass paved.
Like a mountain.
Yeah, like a mountable curb, cobblestone, you know.
And that's what Jim's comment also goes on to read. He would like to see it be a 10-foot radius with a mountable curb.
Yeah.
So he's thinking along the same lines.
Exactly. You know, this kind of thing is kind of a racetrack, you know, like you get to it, you know, this is for vehicles to speed up around. It's really better to have that other ways of approaching that, you know, like 150-foot hose can get into there in different ways. I don't think this is on you. I think this is on the borough to try to figure this out.
Right. But yeah, exactly.
Between the fire mark, but I mean, yes, I hear what you're saying, do a 10-foot radius. Make sure there's no trees planted there, so the fire truck can turn if it has to. But we can propose that, see what they say.
I mean, I think it'll be on the
I mean,
planning
I would
commission.
hope that that's a city council decision, right? It's
But
not.
we'll likely make,
Oligarchy.
based on what I think I think that'll be part of, something will be recommended in part of our motion, I would think.
That was all my comments.
Yeah. Okay. So you can expect that from us, and then we'll see what Borough Council says.
I can agree with opposite of what Jim's letters. Since we have the tree balls, for the spacing of light poles? Is there a specific requirement for that? Since we now have the tree walls on.
For streetlight spacing.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
Appendix A says every 45 feet. And it says to do the pedestrian light, which is not dark sky.
Right. Well,
Just don't even. And there's no other pedestrian, those decorative pedestrian lights, the second, within a full block.
sure.
Okay. But yeah, I believe that's what it says, it's every 45. But they goes. Appendix A designs.
All right, well, I think we'll all take a collective look and probably have another, that'll also be part of the motion next week. We'll include a recommendation for that. Okay. I had one question, and I can't remember, I didn't have it in my documents. Did the tree commission review this plan? Do we know?
They did once, we got one review letter.
You got one review letter.
Meeting,
Okay,
and,
right.
Yeah, that was great.
That's
we
right.
ran for that, and we felt that we responded accordingly, we had.
Okay, that's, okay, I wanted to check that.
And we changed the day suggested the trees under the wires, all that.
I think that meeting, yes, and I remember you bringing that up now. So I think that meeting probably resolved all their comments, but Ramsey, maybe we can check back in,
Yeah,
make sure.
I can send this to them.
Okay.
I don't believe they saw it.
I think their concerns were, based on our previous meetings, their concerns were probably alleviated, but it'd be nice to confirm before we go final. And then just, there was a slight discrepancy on the building height calculations. It's fine, they're still, but there was, I'll show you, just for, because I'm a completist on that. This corner is listed as 414.67, but it's a little different in this, in number 2, it's 414.83. So just letting you know, it doesn't change the answer. Appreciably, we're still compliant and all that,
Yeah.
but I know Alan likes when I check all the numbers for the height, so I wanted to make sure I was doing my full, my full review. But yeah, that's the only thing. We're still good.
We do have a rendering to show you guys, like we have a color architectural rendering.
Okay, great. Yeah, you can, hopefully.
That's it, this is the last thing I'll.
No, that's great. I was going to ask about that. No, that was my last comment, actually, so that will answer that. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, I'll go here. There we go. Is it the one? No. Yeah, you might need to put it back in. I don't see it. It worked last week or whatever, last didn't. Should just show up.
We were putting in the other one, but it was also taking over the mouse.
Oh, right. The Bluetooth, you can,
Try the one on the side,
yeah,
just beneath.
we just might lose connection with the mouse.
Yeah, right there.
No, that's all right. We're still, it's all in the testing phase. Now you might have, do you have to touch it then? We have to do that? Oh, the mouse is still working. Oh, there it is. All right, look at this.
So it's just gonna be the underscore exterior.
Okay.
So I think you guys saw the black and white version of this in our submission
Yeah.
materials.
Yeah.
So, this is what, like to do, with you guys. Pending you guys' comment, but then he's got some rear views, different options as well.
So those are,
That would be Washington. This is the back.
It's really great to see those pedestrian doors in the rear there. So grateful, that you guys did that.
So either
one or the other.
the higher or higher.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And I can't remember what the Oh, that was something.
That's it, that's it.
I was thinking of the black and white we had as well. Patent essentially.
Alan,
Okay.
first, impressions?
But not any comments, no, like to listen.
Your module, but it's not the top common. For your student.
We'll go around the whole room and get everybody's opinion. Alan, do you wanna offer up any?
No, I'd like to,
Thoughts?
I would like to have access to this and study it
Sit with it,
a little more, yes.
okay.
I'll send it to, I guess I'll send it around.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, we do have, next week, I think it would be nice to kind of sit with it a little bit and think through, ahead of next week's meeting. That won't affect, well, materially, literally and figuratively.
What is the third one down?
That's also another rear, a potential rear. It's different color.
It's just silent. Another option.
Yeah, if we could get this and then, post that for the meeting, that'd be great. We appreciate it, though. This definitely
Yeah, thank you.
adds more detail for us to discuss and think about. Okay, great. Thank you.
Next.
All right.
Next question.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. I should open this up for questions. Yeah.
Lisa Kearns, I live West Middle Street, just around the corner, and I go past here on my, I either walk in or ride my bicycle or my unicycle, or I drive through here. So some of my questions were just like you had. So the sconces are up at the very top?
No, nobody next to you.
Right here.
Okay, so it's not
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, these are a little misleading. Those, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, the sconces are next to the door on all the doors.
Yeah, we're proposing the next, doorway. in front of the back.
And they will be in accordance with the dark skies as far as temperature, lower temperature.
It's-
and,
Yeah, yes, yeah, we had those details on the lighting plan.
Also what did y'all talk about? I mean, I think I followed about the site plan. So it seems like I drive sometimes or ride my bicycle down. I'm coming down Patton on the bicycle and cars are popping out. Whatever this.
Bird's eye.
And I've almost been taken out more than once, because you can't
Four.
see anything coming out.
So,
Sorry.
I mean, I'll try and agree, this should help with the deck, it's the building now,
It's right on, yeah,
and we're,
and it's at the top of a,
and now it's being pulled back, so like, the building now is all the way to that. So it's being pulled back, so.
So the building will be pulled back. What we were discussing was just this radius.
right. So sight lines, I was told that, well, we hardly ever hold them to the sight lines. Well, then why do we have sight lines? Again, is it required what we have in sight lines? Is that a state law, or wondering if you waive it all the time, why does it still exist? The standard where people are supposed to be.
I mean, that's a perfect question, right? So much of the borough is non-conforming to a lot of things, right?
But this is something new, that we're not making Yarmouth's change. But this is a new thing, and should we bring it more into compliance or stop saying that's the rule?
It's a great point. I think we should stop making that the rule. I mean, if you were to apply this to the rest of town, it would have a hugely detrimental effect on the rest of town. I appreciate your point though with those sight lines. Now, a lot of studies might say that, maybe increasing that a little bit is it good? But, I'm at the corner of Biddle and High. We have wrecks there all the time. And we do need the sight triangles, but people are just moving quickly. So there's often the cases made, actually, if you can reduce that, people are a little bit more cautious. So I think there's give and take with that. There are other ways of, perhaps slowing down traffic there. There were other methods.
Yeah.
If you keep widening that sight triangle, there's more and more, it's like, if you look at the cone of vision of drivers, the faster you go, that gets narrower, 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 if you're
Right.
slower.
Well,
But I think it's a great point that you raised, and I'll make a note of it that we should look into that.
and the borough planner pointed out that the stoops go beyond the lot line. What is that about? And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think.
Does it go really?
Every stop on this block, I think, is beyond the lot line.
I'm sorry?
I believe almost every stop on this block is also beyond the lot line. There's still, sidewalk is wide enough that's planned for walking past and sweep into the sidewalk.
Yeah, the stoops will be consistent with the stoops at the buildings to the west or, down on this rendering. So,
They look very, in the color rendering you showed, they look very different than the stoops on that. The whole building looks really different than what's there now.
oh, it's gone. The color rendering is gone.
I agree with you, and it's not really part of the, like, there's give and take. It's not really part of the purview. It's definitely not part of the purview of zoning, correct? Right? Like,
Correct.
zoning has no say in that. It would have to be within a hard, some kind of historic over. However, this is a client that's been, or a developer has been really great to work with. And so my goal in a week from tonight, next Tuesday, is I was simply going to sketch out, hey, what are those neighboring buildings? What are maybe a couple different features of that? Because it's a Georgian or, kind of layout, very simple eve lines that are tied together, and just offer it to this applicant, for review. But that's But I agree with other students.
And it talks about, when we're talking about the sightlines too, that a couple of the letters talked about restricting parking on West Washington. Is that something that you're considering or no?
I feel the park is already, there's yellow curves already that restrict. We have there's a yellow curve on this side of the Bird's Eye Alley. We're turning in, that allows our car from being that turn. Straight across, there's about a 22-foot section of yellow curve here, and then there's a driveway on each side, so trucks coming out can turn out. There's a little bit of existing yellow curve here. We are proposing 12 feet of yellow curve on this side. And the sight line they were talking about sight lines for the parking. 15 feet back, we're asking for a waiver of 15 feet back, the existing building in the way,
Right.
so 12 feet back, you can get the site, and then with the cars being parked, you can pull out even a little bit further and get even better sight line. It's absolutely how our.
Well, sure, if you stick your car all the way out, you can get really good sightlines.
Yeah, but I mean, 12 feet back, you can still get up and you're not running traffic.
So you're not gonna propose losing more parking spaces for parking?
Well, the comment that we said something.
Well, that's why I'm asking the
That's right.
question.
That is ultimately up to the borough. That's not necessarily, they're going to meet the requirements, I believe. And then the borough can determine if they feel the need to take more.
And is that council that determines, or did somebody make a recommendation?
We could make a recommendation.
I mean, I'm just wondering how the process.
Yes. I believe we could make a recommendation to council in our motion, but whether we do, I guess, will be determined.
One other thing about the trip generator table. There was a question about whether we had the existing traffic and how much are we thinking the traffic will increase or decrease with people, or decrease, with these.
You want me to call up the impact study? Yeah.
Was it, one part it said you didn't have. The
Yeah,
correct-
the first round, she accidentally left out the appendix that had the data.
Right.
That had the data that they were looking for. It's just in the first site, our first submission.
Is that going to be in the appendix or is that?
Yeah, so what the new thing she attached is great. It's kind of a lot of stuff that you don't.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't want to
So is it more
hijack.
traffic or less?
Um. That's gonna be, I think it's less. I remember. This,
Well, we can, and let's take that as a comment. We don't need to answer it tonight. We can try to answer that. Because I don't remember, because I didn't look through the appendix.
There's a.
Yeah, let's look at it. Let's look at it.
She does for the garage and the house is
Right.
compares out to what we're proposing. And all that is, or that's in the first part.
Yeah. And I don't, if I recall, I don't think it's significant either way. I'm not sure if it's less or more, but I don't think it's
Yeah, that's
significant.
good. Somebody could just-
But we can speak to that briefly next week.
And the other thing is stormwater. I mean, we all know with this latest storm, this area, manhole covers were again, happening out of the street. We're going with, this has less than impervious coverage, right, than the existing. But how much are we,
This meets the guidelines,
it does.
Yeah.
right? That's not a stormwater management, but it complies with stormwater management.
Yeah.
So it meets all the regulations.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it will definitely improve the situation.
Yeah, but we're how much, but yes.
As much as,
They
yeah.
meet their standard and
right, so there's impervious, but then also stormwater is meeting both of those. Yeah.
that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes. Big advice next morning, North Arlington. Are there elevations showing the west?
Yeah, so looking at the dark, or the patent side, oh,
I don't know what's in my bag.
Yeah,
oh, you're on, okay, so,
you look out.
Yeah, back then.
I'm trying to, I think we have black and white elevation views in the architectural plan. So if you look back to the phone drive.
It's still in the,
We go to, Westchester County's, we have all the views here, so that's Washington Street. Well, I mean, the one
That's-
Washington, the one
yeah,
Washington.
that would be it, right?
That's, no, that would be more the side.
So this is from Dartmouth West.
Right.
Washington is here, Patton's. Okay. Great. So. There's a 10-foot side yard between the property line and where the house is.
Right.
And if,
That's Washington looking.
Well, there, it's not actually right, like it's two sides of the same because it's topographies.
Yeah.
Like it's not actually a side elevation of that one, but it gives you a sense.
Yeah.
It's showing the. let's see, there,
patent's higher.
higher.
Washington. And in the middle are the trees, right?
Right.
And is there a fence as well?
Yeah, there's gonna be a 6-foot fence along the whole, backyard. If you scroll down to Patton, see the other way.
6 foot, is it?
Yes. 6-foot solid on the fence. So, Patton will be look this way. There's Patton, that's west.
Right. Will that become part of the meeting minutes that we available after tonight?
These renderings, those will be in the document, center. They don't go, those,
You
They
can
don't
find it
necessarily go.
online.
but yes, yeah. You know?
What it is.
We have it.
I think it's in the plans.
Yeah, it's in the
There are
plan.
notes.
Do we know?
It's gonna be a non-white fence.
Right, that was one of the comments from, yeah, non-white. do you? does-
Public
Oh,
oral,
it is.
capital P.
Okay. Not supposed to say it out loud. Now anybody can get it. Okay. Just capital P?
Capital P, public 401.
And can you give him a render
capsule.
of the side to what that will actually, what kind of material that will be? Is that possible?
It is transferred. I know I'm waiting for.
On, from the front end, system side, and from
Yeah.
It looks based on this, that it would be the same as the front. Is that a reason? Is that the plan? Okay, it's still to be determined. Okay,
but the back is different.
the back is. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you. We'll see you next week. All right, great.
That plan rendering looks really great. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Don't forget your thumb drive. And if you can,
It's tied to your finger.
I'll go call her again.
thank you.
You too.
You too.
Thank you.
That'd be nice.
We can, I'll just
Yes,
Just take a second to clean.
Probably
those
not
up,
the weather.
say that.
And we'll get to the university. All right.
We have somebody presenting.
I don't know. Do we have anybody here presenting for the university? I hope they, Ramsey, do we know if they're expected next week?
I will confirm, but like I said, I had emailed, Wendy had emailed Brian Nagel and he said he didn't think it was supposed to be on the agenda. And I,
We were told it had to be on the agenda.
yeah, it was on the agenda, so I will follow up with him and see.
Okay,
Yeah, and I think that you need to get your consultant review letters before you can do anything.
right.
And,
But we were told we need to do something.
right, I think Brian's, he already gave the burn extension until the end of August to start the conditional use hearing. I think he might have to push that back some more,
Okay.
because it's a lot to go over.
It is.
It's a
It
huge
is.
zone change. Yeah.
Hard,
It's a huge change to the zoning, right? I mean, that's a
Well-
significant area.
right.
I just mean they're grabbing a bit of,
And then the other issue, I think, is how we're going to coordinate with West Goshen
Mhm.
to the extent we have to, because some of this is in West Goshen.
And there was conversation about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know whether there's some thought, maybe we should get the same consultants.
Hmm.
So they're not getting different comments than you're getting. So there's a lot to do.
Yes, there is. Let's see. So we do have, I'm just gonna try to pull up. What do we want to look at? Does anybody have, you want to look at the master plan summary report?
so
You want to pull up plans?
So I think one of the things I left here tonight is Mr. Committis, just overall comments, because I skimmed through those, but there's a lot to take in. This is a working session, so I was hoping
Yeah.
that like
It is.
be partly educational. Yeah, I'd
Tom,
love
do
to
you
hear
mind,
your
being
overall
put on the
thoughts.
About 30 years ago, the university approached the borough to see what they thought about vacating South Church Street from Niels to Rosedale. And the sentiment at the time was, we'll think about it, we'll let you know. But it seemed to get legs over the years, like, oh yeah, the university has decided to vacate South Church Street. So I have to confess, I take South Church Street every day to go wherever I have to go south, because I don't want to get stuck on High Street.
Right.
And it's heaven.
Especially now.
And if it were closed off, I would then stay on Price or Sharpless. And just stay in line on High Street, whatever time of day. So I thought it would be fair for the university and the borough to rekindle the conversation from 30 years ago. Is Borough Council inclined to pass an ordinance to vacate South Church Street at some point? And if they are, they have to ask RV to look at the effect of diverting that traffic on South High Street. Now, in the meantime, as you know, they have changed the curb alignments. So it's even worse on High Street if Church gets closed. Anyway, that's one item. I think the sentiment at the time, 30 years ago, was University of Pennsylvania did the same thing. They vacated the street and they created nirvana, for all the crossover pedestrian movement. But there's a lot of other streets around the campus at the University of Pennsylvania to distribute the trips. So anyway, that's an issue. Another one is, aside from always looking on their cell phones, none of the students ever pay attention to the north-south vehicular movement of traffic on High Street. And you have to go like 1 mile an hour. And, they've tried continental crosswalks, the cones. You will be thrown in jail for the rest of your life if you don't stop. But one of the comments that we raised is, again, an RV comment, RV consideration, is to have those flashing beacons so that motorists, especially at night, are aware of the movement. I'll come back from a night meeting in the South, and I have to tell you, I just miss the students because they just walk. They dart across the street and nobody pays attention because they're always checking their cell phones. So anyway, the other thing is, when I think about the campuses that I have visited in the Mid-Atlantic states, I have to say my alma mater, Penn State, the master plan for which was done by JJ&R Van Arbor, Johnson, Johnson, and Roy, has the best wayfinding signage component of any campus master plan that I've seen. And what they've done is they just have low 30 or 42-inch piers on which they have the school logo and a map. You are here. Now, in certain key major intersections, they'll have an angled top for the pier with a more sophisticated wayfinding map. But it's magic. When I was there, people always coming up saying, how do I get to this building or that building? Now, it's just very fluid movement. Another thing was when I got here in 73, I had the good fortune to meet Greg Tremblay, the campus landscape architect. And he had a very deliberative street tree planting program and tree replacement program. And when Greg retired, he passed the baton to a guy named Larry Paglia, a landscape architect from Newtown Square. And then Larry retired, and then it went away. So on the strength of individual projects, they've done a good job of planting here and there. But one of the suggestions that we made is that they consider, as part of the master plan, some type of tree program that they could coordinate with the tree commission. It's just all better for the good of the order of having shade and so forth. But I thought on balance, it was a good start. When Benoni looks at it a little bit, and when Kelly Goff looks at it, perhaps, June, July, there'll be their points of view. Sean asked me to look at it and asked Nate Klein and Kelly to just pause and let's just see where it's going to go. But there are several parts of the master plan submission that they really need to look at. There's a stormwater component that Benoni needs to look at. There's a traffic component that RV Kelly needs to look at. So I think for the June meeting, Nate Klein needs to look at the conceptual stormwater management plan. And Kelly needs to look at the Westchester University parking study. Yes, the parking study. But, the thing that's most refreshing is really that they submitted it for your review. I mean, it's a long, long, long time coming where there have been 5 or 6 master plans in the last 30 years. They've never asked the borough ever.
No, there's some big chunk, maybe we can just highlight, there's some large changes to our zoning, yeah. This would come up and grab this, right? So that would then be part of,
Right.
part of our.
They would grab this right here. This corner.
Okay, sorry, and then lead to the left as well. You look at our zoning map and then the plan over there, right? So those, I guess from just from a zoning planning point of view, those are significant changes right there too, like the traffic, like absolutely, we would need that, but also just that's expanding that zoning district.
Yeah, and then one of the comments I made in terms of, so one of the hallmarks of the North Campus Master Plan about 15 years ago were these gathering areas. And they've done a pretty good job along Church Street at University Avenue. There are these scallop-shaped areas with benches, and then there's some nice sitting areas across the street from them. But to the point about vacating church from Sharpless to Rosedale, this would then become a new pivotal location. So as a very modest comment, I said, well, if you're going to have additional gathering areas beside the ones near Ruby Jones, these locations, and the outdoor sitting areas here, and also outdoor sitting areas there, these 2 corners become very critical.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really kind of bizarre, before the business building was built here, coming back from the night meetings, like from the Middletown, so you could set your clock so it between 10:45 and 11:15, just like you see the deer. Group of foxes, a mother fox, and little baby foxes. So this stream, we look at the old USGS maps, came right through campus, right here, up to and underneath the Burger King parking lot. And it's all on a pipe. So what the foxes would do is they would come across the back of this. There's a pipe here that comes through the pipe over here, and then walk across here. Somebody would shush them, and they come over here, run down, and can go like this. So I said to Hal, about 15 years ago, can you put 2 piers at the university ram heads, and then pay homage to the foxes? He told me to go away. But anyway, the thing is, does you and Cole go to the campus study during the day? Do they go at night? Do they watch the behavior of the students? So when I was doing the review, not only did I go during the day, but I also went during the night. And I have to say, the lighting really helps the students get around better at night than during the day. There's one other thing that I noticed. Oh, I know what it was. So the quiz question is, what street in Westchester has had 4 names? There's only one street in Westchester that has had 4 names. And it is what's now called University Avenue.
I was gonna guess University Avenue.
So this used to be called Normal Street. So this street was Normal Avenue. Then it changed its name to State. And then it became College Avenue, now it's University Avenue. So I thought it'd be really cool if they would have some kind of little recognition that this is the only street in the borough that's names. But, that's kind of a wonky thing. I didn't put it in there because I felt fired.
Be tough on those wayfinders.
Yeah. Hear ye, this street is the only street.
It should be, too bad there wouldn't be a light there because it could be a little button that you push that would be your voice explaining it.
That's scary.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, the thing is, it's so great is that they.
Like the
read
old
it
zoo
out
key.
And said, what do you think about it? I mean, it's really wonderful that they asked for it. And I know there's ordinance requirement, this is why I submitted, but it is just really remarkable, like, yay.
Thank you, Tom. I guess we'll go down the line now, and if there's something you want me to call up so that you could speak to it, or do you have any?
No, I'm saying I wouldn't spend that much time, but I was hoping we would get something's monumental. I was hoping we would get some sort of presentation for it,
And Jim has been working, trying to get that presentation. It sounds like.
I want to understand what they're trying to accomplish for it.
Yeah,
Offered.
fair enough. I mean, it sounds like we're not going to get consultant comments before next week's meeting, almost certainly. I don't know.
Probably not, because I had forgotten, I typically, like Wendy sends this all out and I don't think about it for a minute, but then I had forgotten that, to what Tom said, jogged my memory, that we had been talking to Chris Bayshore in West Goshen to talk about consolidating the consultants, and I did not hear follow-up from that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can do a motion and vote on this next week without, I know we
Yeah,
can.
we can.
Without consultant comments, much less coordinated consultant comments, which would be much more, even more valuable.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if we have to, I'm hoping that an extension is being considered.
We could make a motion, but it wouldn't be.
Right, it wouldn't be to anybody, yeah, it wouldn't have a lot of,
It would be,
it wouldn't be
there
very
could be, there
valuable.
could be negative parts of it that may not need to be because we don't have enough information, but.
I mean, I did take a look at it. I read through this. I have my own, couple pages of questions, mostly questions and comments that I know are going to come up in the consultant comments about super block, about housing and beds, about parking, about pedestrianization of church and university traffic, all the things I think we've already kind of touched on here. That I don't think, I mean, if some of us haven't even looked at it that deeply, I don't even want to taint your reviews before you have a chance to do it. So, but those are the big ones that I was looking at. I'm glad to hear I'm curious to hear more about the tree plan, if there is one, if the tree commission, is the tree commission reviewing this? Do we know?
Well, let's make a motion.
I don't know.
Okay. Do you know, Ramsey, if this was submitted to the tree commission?
I don't know if it was, I'm gonna follow up on where this was sent
Okay,
and
that'd be
with
great.
Sean, just to confirm if we have a plan.
Okay.
And I apologize, because I realize this is a confusing timeline, it felt.
It's just so big and it
Yeah.
feels very important, and we want to make sure all of us want to crack at this,
Sure.
but not blindly,
Totally understood. I'm
Thanks.
just curious why we were, I thought it was, okay, Brian will present in May and you guys would be able to review, thinking the third party reviews would be in, but now understanding that there's an extension to August, I'm not sure why the timeline's so tight for planning commission, so I have some internal digging to do. I'm sorry.
No, I understood.
I will just add to this historic perspective that 10 years ago, when we saw an application from the university for building a business school, it was agonizing because the university took a very secretive attitude toward what their long-term plans were and their intentions with the size of the student population. And we were in a very bad situation, which got us, I think, to this developing this district. So although we're taking a look at this critically, I see this as an enormous step forward because we essentially bargained here. Let's work together as and have conversations about where we're all going as university, municipality. And I think that's when the university got new leadership, all of that that may help all of this to happen. And I do think we have a mountain of information about what a third of the borough is really doing, maybe half of the borough in terms of population, maybe half of the borough is doing, which we had no information about before. So, yeah, I do want to emphasize the positives. I've been as harsh as anybody on the university, and I just wanted that long-term plan. And of course, it was very complicated because it involved a lot of other municipalities, surrounding. But it was a brave plan. It finally got done. I think it was introduced in 2017. It was finally passed in 2020. But there is real progress here. And the fact that we're even discussing this, we know what their plans are. Are there going to be 50,000 students there in 10 years? We know that that's not the case now, and that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, it was good to have that, context.
Okay. So is there anything you wanted to add from your experience?
Well, the only thing I did look through it pretty quickly. The only thing that struck me was two things, and I don't really have any strong opinion on either, was the Church Street closing. I just think that more people should be aware that it's closing, or they're suggesting it be closed so that there can be more input and more, just so that people have a chance to come out and say something about it. And then I didn't really have necessarily any issues with the master plan itself, other than I feel like us reviewing it, since it's an internal block, the other part of it's down in South Campus, which doesn't have anything to do with us directly, that it's more of a question of state or the university or whatever, and talking with the council or whatever about the population of the university. It's not even, the buildings are the buildings, and I think everything will be done well, and we could kind of parse and go back and forth about, does this community space do that, or Wayfinder, or anything we're talking about. But it's more like the amount of students, how many. And it was interesting that you start to get teasing, you start to get some information in. And then just that closing of Church Street. They're kind of the two biggest things that affect the borough, not necessarily the super block of the university. I mean, if a building got taller or smaller or went away or whatever, to me, that doesn't really necessarily matter because it's on the university campus. And there's, residents go through that, but it's not a direct connection. So the closing Church Street and the population of the university, let's put it that way, the student numbers, that's been the biggest problem. And the one thing that struck me was when I was going through in over in the parking lot down there off of Matlack Street, where they're doing the phony residential housing. That, it's like, so how many more students is it, so that, they're the two things, population and closing Church Street. Other than that.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned some of my questions, the one thing I was curious is, the other issue I think is connected is parking. And specifically, those parking studies were interesting in how it seems underutilized their parking structures are. I know Alan brought it up on Sharpless Street in Church, how vacated that parking structure often is, and what their parking requirements are and how they're using it, where students and faculty are parking. So I just thought that was interesting, and there might be an opportunity there for the borough to partner or coordinate with the university on live parking capacities and tracking that and actually utilizing it for the borough. But other than that, yeah, the biggest thing was closing Church Street, and then the traffic associated with that or potential changes, and then the super block and the population.
Yeah,
I
I did see Kelly for Reigns of Vernick.
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks ago, actually.
Okay.
And I said, you're gonna have to look at this Church Street thing.
Yeah.
The parking is an interesting thing, because I thought about the parking for a hot second, but I just think that, I know everyone will probably look at me like I'm crazy, but I feel like the parking, like you said, I just kind of was like, there's never really a parking problem around the university. And I know a lot of people would, residents would be like, no, what are you talking about? And there's always a parking issue, but there's no parking problem
No, it just seems
There's plenty of place
efficiency
to
and,
park.
and the efficiency of the use of the what's already
Yeah.
there seems, it's like it's underutilized and not used efficiently enough. And maybe people aren't aware of it enough. I'm not sure what the issue is, but
People
just
don't
based on
want to
their own
walk,
study.
They don't want to, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I just thought that could be an opportunity. Thomas, did you have any, you spoke a little bit already, but.
That's right. I think we're just waiting for consultants and it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. So.
Absolutely. Steven?
I just have, speaking to some of the residents that have a lot of frustration. It's part of frustration. With, park. Location.
Down here,
So you got a Sarita Avenue.
Yeah.
that's,
closing Church Avenue.
They feel very steamrolled.
Luckily, it's not.
That's not our problem, Stephen. That's, no, I know a few of those folks too, and I'm curious to talk more about it with them, but yeah.
But I was closing church.
Are there any? Just you two left. Do you want to offer anything?
The university has requested to Borough Council in prior years, more recently than 30, a couple of years ago. And I considered it a fake request. But within 2 years prior to that, they had requested an additional handicap space and an additional facilities parking space in that block. And they stated at that council session that it would be gated for fire company access only. And I asked the question, where are you going to turn the buses around? And they had no answer for it. To me, it was a big request. They wanted control of the street with no plans to vacate.
But you're wearing your university shirt. Thanks.
I wanted to just, Patrick Weaver saying,
No, I was hoping, like, I figured there would be a presentation by folks who can get more into it. I haven't too deeply into the whole thing yet, but obviously some of the major, one, the mayhem. So it's almost flattish.
yeah, the other thing I was gonna say, if you go back, and those of us who were here when Mark Mixner was on the planning commission. So when when the university had proposed different buildings, they sent Mark Mixner to our meetings. And over time, we got into a real good relationship with Mark, and then Mark joined the planning commission. And I don't think he's still with us. I think he died.
Correct.
Yeah, that's why he's on the planning commission. Yeah. But it was a real breath of fresh air to have Mark Mixer with us. It was the very, very first time in my experience that anybody from the university was on the planning commission. But I went to the inauguration of Dr. Lori Panoski, and I spoke to her afterward, just real high level. And I would just say, this is a great opportunity because as the new university president, she is sincerely interested in whatever she could do to strengthen town-gown relations. And they even have Julie Dietrich now, who's the government liaison. And she's there, for communication. Now I know Brian will come in representing the university and present their consultant reports. But I really think this is a wonderful opportunity that the dialogue with the university can be stronger than it's ever been.
Do you have any suggestions for that? That's a conflict that's running right the town and gown. And I think very often, when the discussion is outside, like we're having a discussion here, do you have tips for how to grow that relationship, meet with them? Do we meet on site? How best to engage?
Okay, so then the night of the inauguration, there was this big soiree, the scholarship gala at Longwood. And as the evening drew later, only the strong survive in the dance floor. And when I took the pictures and texted them to Dr. Lori Banowski, it was because I said, can I have your cell phone number? So at the appropriate time, I say, hey, Lori, send Julie with Brian, because we want to like strengthen these town government relations. When I first got here in 73, Thomas Butler was running for borough council, and he said, what would it take to get your vote, my vote for him, borough council? And this is when there were rumblings that the High Street School was going to be closing and up for sale. And I said, have the borough hall at the High Street School to be the link between the university and the town. And we lost the bid. The borough bid on it, but forget the gentleman's name who won the bid,
Mr. Burger King.
Hoplamazian or something like that, to do the Burger King. But, you know, better late than never.
Yeah.
But I would say there's Jeff Osgood, Julie Dietrich, Laura Banowski, they're all like, let us know when you want to talk. And so we just have to get that message to them that we appreciate the opportunity to have a dialogue and continue the dialogue. So.
We also, I mean, there is the community campus committee, I can't remember, if it's campus community or whatever, but we meet once a month with reps from the borough and the university and borough admin, and that's been a really helpful committee. It's very short, it's only an hour, but I do feel like the more people that participate, and we don't often, I know Daryl's often there, but anybody's welcome to come, and the feedback is also great because Julie's
Is that
there.
the Center for Community Solutions?
No.
No, okay, something.
Just more Cs, it's more thing, no, this is a subcommittee of the borough that then is supposed to report to public safety.
Oh,
Is what the ordinance says, and it is a good meeting to.
Might
go
be
to.
great though to have those individuals that you just named come to, maybe not us, but maybe the borough, we have borough council here looking to hear this
I'll fit
presentation.
in the Ramsey.
Yeah, and I know you've been meeting on the task force with the.
Meeting with Julie, Zed. Occasionally some other folks from the university with myself, Tom Hendrick, this is where she. And Nicole, and so we meet monthly to talk specifically about communication issues. And this will obviously be part of those.
Gotcha.
Coming up. We did fairly sent to, present to whatever, related to all this. And then we can do those conversations. Open and honest and willing to.
Perfect.
I feel like in the last few months, it's really ramped up the communication between the borough and the university. Do you?
Yeah, I think since the parking lot issues
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Good feedback.
Okay.
I don't like the different from a parking perspective.
That's important. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
If nobody else has anything, we can adjourn. I don't think we make that's a work session. So, thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Their request.
They didn't do it with the fire.
Cute
They
that.
only want one zero.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
One.
Oh. You saw that?
Thank you.
Did you read that in?
Dana left the.
These from you, Darrell, was that?
Oh, I didn't realize it was
They
instructed.
were there.
Yeah,
I
she
think,
was really.
behind all the nameplates, so I'm not sure.
Oh, that's right.
I thought this was gonna be a long meeting in the health.
Oh, thanks,
You guys-
Daryl. Yeah. I was wondering. Okay. You've been collecting, these are part of the, I'm just kidding. Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you, Daryl. I also thought it would be a long one. I was. Do we?
shut this down?
Do we just, or do we just, I'm gonna shut her down.
I don't really ever do anything, but
Okay, I'll just let
I
it.
just kind of walk away.
Yeah, okay, that's.
But normally it kind of goes dark, and this is
Right.
different with the.
Well, oh, we do have to fly.
It's beyond quality movie.
Where's? Wonder if she needs me to stop this.
Maybe one of my grandkids, if we did.
Yeah, we're on testing, whatever that, WebEx.
Thank you for.
Yeah, were you, did you like delayed by something to work? I didn't know, I thought you.
Well,
were
I
supposed
woke
to
up
be
this morning. Oh, yeah, I was actually planning on being at the work session, but I had it on Tuesday on my calendar. So this morning, I actually thought about it for like a hot minute when I woke up. I was like making my coffee. And then like, the day was crazy. The dog threw up. We have 3 dogs. So the dog threw up and then.
Ramsey, do I have to do anything with the meeting? Are they gonna shut it down? Do I need to stop sharing? Do I, what do you?
I don't know, I'll text
From-
people.
Okay, I didn't wanna stop sharing if you were still doing something.
Guys are.
Thank you, Randy.
Because I was trying to. Fairly tired again.
How many did you want?
I was trying to get an then, which Thomas, I need to let you know something when you're back. And then.
Are these all going?
No, where they, I think that's what they need.
Oh, okay.
So this is 4 tenants.
Oh, okay.
And then,
They don't let us explicitly, right.
Gotcha.
you know, Ace, Matt from Ace.
Yeah.
Right, so like 7 months of Y, and it happened to Y, so that was like, oh, really? He wasn't there, but she.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, thanks, Tom.
All the conversations because she works there. Yeah. So that was a whole thing. So then I get to work, and then my son Quinny had a job interview in Newcastle, Delaware. He gets out of the car, he gets in the car, called me and told me that everyone runs into a curb, blows the radiator.
While he's on the phone with you.
Yeah, so then I'm like dealing with him. And I just was like, dude, you gotta deal with it. But then I ended up driving down to Jenny. Then I get back, Stephanie, she was out home, she's sick, she got laryngitis, so I got her medicine. And then I finally sat down, pulled my phone out, your email, and I was done. So.
That's all right.
I don't
Thank you.
Oh, of course.
think so.